Hi, welcome back. Today is part 3. So, last week you learned your triggers. You learned what things cause you to reach for food and what's behind that. I really hope you were kind to yourself and really just used it as an experiment to get curious. This week, I want to talk about one of those triggers more in detail, and that's the habitual activity trigger. Because that's a really, really common one that we can talk a lot about and really get deeper into so that you can change some of your habits. Before we get started, let's take a few moments to breathe together, as always, because that just helps us get ready for what's to come. So find your seat and sit up nice and tall. Relax your shoulders. Feel your feet on the ground. And take a deep breath in. Let it go. Another breath in, filling the lungs. Exhaling out completely. One more in. And out. And gently open your eyes when you're ready. So let's talk about what we do while we're eating. Those habitual activities of working while eating, reading, being on your phone, writing an email, standing up, daydreaming. These are all possible realities for a lot of people. And there's nothing necessarily bad about that. They've just become habits. And it's important that we think about, is this how I want to eat? And are there ways I can make time for eating? What can I clear out of my life so that I can have more time to focus on what's in front of me? And that's a meal. You know, we often say that we love food and we love eating, but how often are you really tasting your food? How much of that meal do you really savor or enjoy if you're not paying attention? And so today we'll learn some tools that will help you do that. And your challenge this week will be to have a meal without any distractions. One of the reasons this is important is because when you're trying to do two things at the same time, you can't really do either of them very well. And so if you're trying to work and eat, you might not be paying attention to what you're working on, and you're also not paying attention to what you're eating, how your body's feeling, how hungry you are, how full you are. So I know it's hard to make time for eating, but I hope by the end of this session, you'll realize the value of doing that and what can come from it. We're going to do a short meditation, so you can pause this and come back to it for when you're ready to have a meal or if you have a snack, because you're going to need food. You can either do a few bites of a meal or 3 pieces of food, like 3 grapes or 3 pieces of chocolate. Whatever you have at home is really fine. You're just going to need some food. And so to get started, find a seat with your food in front of you and put your feet on the ground, take some breaths. And now pick up one piece of food, and I want you to look at it like you've never seen this food in your life. You have no idea what it is, and you really are trying to figure it out. So you have to pay attention to the color, the texture, the shape. Now I want you to close your eyes and bring the piece of food to your nose and take in all the aroma. Notice the smell of the food. Maybe it's warm and you feel steam. Notice thoughts that are coming up. Acknowledge them, let them go, and bring your attention back to the food. And now place the food in your mouth, but do not chew. Just let it sit in your mouth, on your tongue. And now pay attention to the sensations that you're having. How the food feels on your tongue, the flavor of the food, the texture. If it's a piece of food you can roll around in your mouth, do that. And when you're ready, chew once. So take one bite and stop. And notice other sensations that come up. Does the flavor change? Does the texture change? And now keep chewing, but do so slowly so you can really experience the act of chewing and experience the food as it changes in flavor. And when you're ready, swallow the food. Feel it as it goes down your throat and enters your stomach. And be aware that your body just took in that food's energy. Bring your attention back to your breath. And back to your feet on the floor. If thoughts are coming up about if you liked the food or didn't like the food, notice them and let them go. If other thoughts are coming up, that's normal too. Bring your attention back to the breath. And now open your eyes and pick up your second piece of food or take your second bite of food. And I want you to do the same thing. Look at it first, examine its color, its texture, and then bring it to your nose, take in the aroma, and then put it in your mouth. Before chewing, notice how it feels in your mouth, on your tongue. And then take one bite, noticing how it changes. And then chew it all the way. And as you swallow, notice the sensation of swallowing. And breathe deeply. Now for the third bite, you're going to guide yourself through the same exercise of seeing, smelling, tasting, chewing slowly, and then swallowing. Take your time. Really get curious about what it's like to eat this food. Now reflect on the food that you just ate and think about where it came from. How did it get here? What was this food's journey to get to your plate? Where was it grown? Who got it to you? How did it get here? If you don't know the answers to those questions, that's okay. Maybe you look it up when we're finished. Part of experiencing food is also being grateful for having food and how the food got to us. And so you can use that as part of this practice, or you can set it aside, but it's something to consider. So this was an introduction to mindful eating. How is this different than how you've experienced eating before? Was it different or was it similar? What thoughts came up? Were there any feelings that arose? How would experiencing food like this change the way you eat or change your habits? Take a few minutes, pause the video, and write down the answers to these questions. How is this experience different? What thoughts and feelings came up? And how would this change my experience of eating if I were to eat like this more often? It's likely that what you experienced during that mindful eating practice, a lot of other people experience too. It's normal for thoughts to come up while eating. It's normal for feelings to arise when eating, and you've learned that in week 1. This is not about judging yourself. This is just about learning and seeing what works for you and how you can move into new spaces. And I really find that moving into new spaces around eating is so freeing and so good for your health. By giving our attention to the food in front of us, we're able to actually have enjoyment and satisfaction. We're able to know how hungry we are or how full we are. We're able to know what it is that we're eating and why. And that's why it's really important for you to just take a few moments, even if it's the first few bites of your food, to really pay attention. Another important habit to notice is how fast you eat. This is a really big one for a lot of people. Even if you're not doing something while eating, you might be inhaling your food, waiting to get on to the next thing. And so I want to talk about how to work on that and see if you can slow down. So your challenge this week is to choose one meal during the week or one meal per day that you eat without distractions, in silence preferably, and to practice that mindful eating meditation at least for the first few bites. One meal this week or one meal per day, and try it. Choose a time that you think you would be able to have to yourself, where there aren't other family members in the house, or a quiet space that you can go to when you don't have to rush to go somewhere else. Some tips for slowing down when you're eating. Number 1, sit down. If you can, take a seat. Number 2, put your utensil down in between each bite. This gives you some time to chew your food and then to pick your utensil back up. Number 3, try to chew your food at least 10 times, depending on the food, and that can really help you slow down. Number 4, take a breath in between each bite. Swallow first, and then just take a breath. Some tips for managing your eating triggers. Make a list of the triggers that come up for you the most. Next, practice the hunger check-in when you notice those triggers come up. This will give you the choice to say, is this a trigger or is this hunger? Start a list of activities you can do instead of eating if you're not truly hungry. And be kind to yourself. That's really important.